Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Card Shop. I'm the big dog, and as always, I'm here with the bearded wonder, Mike Fruitman, and we are owner of Mike Stadium Sports Cards, Colorado's best card shop, and home of some epic singles nights and you call it nights that everyone should take a look at on YouTube. And we're joined this week by Janyce Mabra, who is what I call calling the shots on products at TRISTAR Productions.
Oh yeah.
And Mike can validate is a legend in the industry, much as he is. So Janyce, just to make you feel a little bit more at home, I do tend to cater to the backgrounds of those that matter. So I'm going to switch to this background, let you feel a little bit like we're right there with the logo. I know it's not quite the Cowboys, but it is TRISTAR, so we got to have the verdict there.
Oh, that's true. Well, I got a Cowboys logo here.
So, Janyce, we were talking before we jumped on, and Mike and I are in a bit of a mourning period. Mike, for a single reason that Jamal Murray blew his ACL out last night. Check local listings.
Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah, and today, Bobby Slick Leonard, who's a legend in Indiana basketball, died. And, I grew up, that's why Boom Baby's the shirt, because he made that phrase legendary when Reggie Miller played for the Pacers. And, the number of times I was sitting in a bar where he was, offered to buy him a drink, and then 3 hours later the story stopped, were more than a few. And a lot of people have that with him. So he was, icons that are community icons are the type of people that really become significant. So, mourning the loss of a Nuggets season likely, and mourning the loss of a great in basketball and the Hall of Famer. So Hall of Famers we have. Mike's a Hall of Famer on the card shop side, and you're most definitely a Hall of Famer in the industry. And before we started the show, I had to ask you how to pronounce your last name, because every time I've ever heard anybody talk about you, they just say Janyce. They don't, it's kind of like Pele. They don't have a last name to them. So congratulations on a great career.
Not a lot of other Janyces in the industry too. So.
Well, now there can't be anymore. You've taken them away. So we're, I know we're both excited to have you on this show. Just for a few things. One is, I want to talk about as how you got started in the industry, and what drew you to all this stuff that goes on with crazy guys signing things and the fanatical fans like me that want their signature and other memorabilia, and what got you in here and what excites you about it still.
Well, it's, it wasn't that I was necessarily drawn to the industry, because I'll be honest with you, when I had a friend that was a headhunter, and she had done a lot of placement for people at Score trading cards back when Score was still there. And, that company was sold in the 90s, in 90. And the lady took her millions, and I mean a lot of millions of dollars. Ann was her name. And she turned around and started another trading card company. And she said, and I had been in a startup, a couple of different startups, and my friend knew that. And she knew I liked startups, because, when you do a startup, you're kind of at the bottom and you can go wherever you want with it.
Yep.
And it's a lot of fun. So I went over and interviewed, had no idea what I was getting into. My son had collected cards. I knew that about it. And I thought, well, these people will know the card industry, and I can learn from them.
Right.
Wrong. When I got over there, what I found out in a very short period of time is that Score had been solely marketed, and the sales was done by Major League Marketing, and no one in that building knew a thing about selling trading cards.
Interesting.
So and then on day 2 they asked me to hire somebody to help me sell, and of course we had nothing to sell at the time to begin with. And so I interviewed a young girl, and I told her, I said, I don't know where this is going to go, but I think we can just make it what we want it to be. And that's what we did. So I started off with them, and our first product it wasn't even Playoff at the time. The name of the company was Cards, C-A-R-D-Z. and we had a product called Zap Packs. Were you around for Zap Packs, Mike?
Janyce, I'm sorry, I did miss those. I apologize.
I
He
think
didn't
there
miss
may
much.
still be some out there.
And Janyce, he didn't miss Pogs.
Oh no, none of us missed Pogs. And then we had a lot of non-sports products that we did, and we did them all under the Cards name. And then after about a year, we got the playoff name. She had been trying to secure that name, and we were licensed only by NFL players the first couple of releases that we did. And I took the SCD back when it was about this big, and you probably remember that, Mike. And
That one I do remember, yes.
I mean, SCD truly was kind of the Bible for the hobby back then, because there was no internet. It was just all done by snail mail and telephoning, and no Zoom calls back then. So I read that SCD from front to back every week, and we bought a bunch of lists and just started smiling and dialing. And we were selling Zap Packs, and then Flintstones, and then finally playoff trading cards. And you had, in the email you had sent, you'd asked about stories, which I have stories for days. We could do
that we're
three
confident
of these
of.
segments at least. But I wanted to talk about a couple of stories from back then, because they still are so vivid in my mind, and this is 30 years ago.
Sure.
But the very first show I did was with Diamond Comics, and they did a big show for the comic book industry every year. And so we took our little Zap Packs up there because it was based off of a video game. Actually, Frogger is what it was kind of based off of. And we had no booth. We hung a few signs, posters behind us, and took some boxes of the product and stacked up on the table, and we were ready to wheel and deal. But we went to lunch, and these guys came and sat by us, and they just happened to they worked for Marvel. And one of them was one of the artists for Marvel. And of all things, Stan Lee comes up and sits and has lunch with us. And I want to tell you, Stan Lee looked the same 30 years ago as he did the day he passed. It was unbelievable. But back then he was already was trying to get his Marvel franchise launched. And I don't know how many years it took after that for it ever took off, but it was probably 20 years before we really ever got it going. But, such a, unbelievable experience now when I look back on hindsight. And then the first sports card show I ever did was with TRISTAR. And it was in Houston, and we'd gone down to Houston. And this was in what, until this last year, had been the heyday of sports cards.
Right.
And we were set up, and we were wanting to get brand awareness, introduce our products, that type of thing. And the guy next to us was alone in his booth with all his cards on his table, and he had a big cardboard box, and he was taking money so fast he was just throwing that money in that cardboard box, and we were just astounded. We could not believe what was going on down there.
Yeah,
But I think back to those early TriStar shows, and I did a lot of them.
Hey,
And
Janyce, that's how
had-
Mike's card shop is this right today. He just takes money and throws it in a cardboard box.
Yeah,
and,
just throws it in. He doesn't have time to put it in the cash register. Just throw it in the box. But, I think back, and there's Mickey Mantle coming through the show, Muhammad Ali coming through the show, Ted Williams. And I'm thinking, why didn't you get all those autographs, girl? What was wrong with you? But it truly was, it was a great experience. And then when Donruss Playoff lost their baseball license, they relieved a lot of us of our jobs. And, you know, I'd known Jeff for 15 years at that time, and he called me and asked me if I'd be interested in doing something with their company. I wasn't sure what it was going to be. Because I knew they did show promotion, but I didn't know what else they were doing at the time. So we talked off and on for a while, and I ended up going with them. And now I've been with them for 15 years. And it's been a great run.
Yeah, I remember that day in 2005 when the news came out about MLB yanking. I was like, oh my God, you guys were making so many great baseball products back
Yeah.
then. Oh, that was sorry, bad for me. I understand it was different for you.
So Janyce, you know, pretty much everyone on our show knows Mike from some point in their life. And, you know, when legends meet legends, usually the story of how they met is legendary. And so I'm curious if you recall how you met the bearded wonder over here and
Well,
anything about
I
that
hate to tell
time.
you, this is going to be very disappointing.
No.
I truly do not remember the first time I met Mike, and he probably doesn't remember the first time he met me either. I believe it was at one of the Hawaii trade shows.
My first one was 2001, and if you remember the Bobby Knight dinner, the gentleman.
Oh yes, I do remember that.
Yeah, the gentleman on his
We were
car
just hoping he wasn't going to throw a chair across the room.
I thought about running the stage. I thought better of it when he insulted me. So then everybody would have remembered that one for sure.
Yeah. No, and that was unfortunately for you, Mike, kind of after the shows they had lost a lot of the, I don't know what to say, luster.
Yeah,
to
luster.
some extent. You know, originally when I first started going over there, I mean, of course, there were like 13, 14 NFL trading card manufacturers alone. And that, you know, and then you've got your basketball manufacturers, and there were just a lot of people involved in the industry back then. And of course, the leagues came over, and, you know, it was kind of like between Pinnacle and Skybox and Fleer, who can throw the biggest party?
Yeah,
and I mean,
awesome.
They did some really incredible things over there. It was great. We had a lot of fun.
That's before the evening turned into karaoke. I remember.
No, we did do karaoke.
I went to karaoke one time and I didn't stick around very long, so I didn't do that. But yeah, I've heard about the fabled karaoke nights. The coolest thing I saw was when Upper Deck threw the Survivor Party, and it was on the other side of the island. We were on the bus. It seemed like forever.
We went on buses. Yeah.
I didn't think Hawaii was that.
Was
big.
Was that an Upper Deck party?
Yeah, Upper Deck had the Survivor.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I still have some kind of little thing from that party. I don't remember what it is right now, but
I've got a towel from Upper Deck. I still have it. And please, to all the manufacturers out there, never put a date on a towel, because I know I've got a 20-year-old towel from Upper Deck. Like, I love it. It's a great memory. It's a beach towel, and I'm like, I can't get rid of it because it's awesome. Except for, like, I've had a towel for 20 years. It's probably not a good thing.
Yeah. Well, my husband was fortunate enough. He went with me to several of these, and Upper Deck always sponsored the golf tournaments, and they played at some beautiful courses over there. And you know, they always got a lot of trinkets and stuff from the golf tournaments. But and you know, now that event is known as the Industry Summit. Mm-hmm. It's you know, definitely very different than what it used to be, but probably a lot more productivity gets done now than what happened back then. We were having a good time back then.
Right now, we need the non-productivity. We need the time away. We need karaoke.
Yeah.
We just need to go have fun.
Yes.
Yeah, no doubt. So Janyce, when you look at what you're doing these days, you know, share with our listeners, how would you describe what you do? There's titles, and then there's what you actually do, and I'm real curious how you describe it.
Well, Sean, I actually do what I've done since I started with the trading card companies, I've always worked with the distributors. Well, I take that back, because initially there was not a distributor network.
Right.
Because as there were so many, 25 manufacturers, there were 125 distributors at the time. And there were a lot. And all of the ones I still work with, and the ones Mike would be familiar with, the GTS, the Gold River, the Southern Hobby, they were all around back then, Magazine Exchange, and they're still here. They've just gone through everything, but a lot of them have bought up some of the other smaller distributors, or and some of them just went away because the support just wasn't, the business wasn't there. For a while, I mean, it was very worrisome to everyone involved in the industry how much longer it was, keep going. There were, I don't even can imagine how many thousands of card stores there were in the early 90s. But it was like anybody that opened a pack of cards said, "Oh, I think I'll start a card shop." I know Mike worked at a card shop, so he was somewhat different. And some
He
of
liked
them
it so
did
much
too.
he bought the company.
Yeah. And a lot of them were not business people. They weren't funded or anything like that. So, when the market, when people realized that not every card was going to be a 52 Mickey Mantle card, and the market started taking a dive, a lot of people fell out. And, but the ones that stuck around, I think it's paid off for them.
Yep.
It's paid off, and I think it's so funny because now we're kind of back in that cyclical thing again. I think a lot of the people who opened up card shops back then were weekend warriors, guys who did the card shows. Like, you know what, I could just do this full time, and now I'll stop. And I think we're kind of seeing. It's interesting that you brought that up, but yes, I think we're kind of at that same point again. There's a couple card shops have opened up recently. Another one actually just opened up one last week, a little bit south of us. So I think we're seeing you bring that up. We're kind of there again.
Yeah, definitely seeing some growth again, but the collector base has expanded again.
Yeah.
But get back to your original question, and I'm sorry, I apologize, Sean.
Oh, you're okay. We meander. This is what we do. This is what we do. We all meander. That's why it's fun.
But the group of people I worked back then, as I mentioned, the GTS, the Magazine Exchange, I still work with those people. I just sell them a different product then. Many of them at that time were not carrying packaged memorabilia. They were pretty much, they were just doing trading cards. And, obviously, as we talked about, as the market contracted, they brought in more and more things to expand their sales because they had more things. I work with them, and I certainly have my suggestions on different products and stuff. They're kind enough to listen to me, but generally, Jeff Rosenberg, the owner of our company, is a brilliant mind, and he knows what he's doing. And he does the majority of the buying for the company, so he knows what he's got, and he has an idea in his mind how he's going to put that together. So, but that's what I do. I just sell, still smile and dial, and more emails these days than used to be, because probably up until the early 2000s, I mean, we traveled all the time. We visit customers. We couldn't send a sales sheet out over the internet. We had to mail it to them, and then we'd go over the products with all the salespeople. And it's just very different now than that aspect of it than what it used to be.
Do you like this better, to not have to travel all the time, or which? Because you're probably pretty social too, so you got that you miss out on, right?
Well, I loved traveling until 2001. After 9/11, traveling became a lot less fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, the good thing is I am platinum for life because of all the travel I've done.
That's awesome.
So even though I don't travel as much these days, I still have a few perks from that.
Sure.
That when I do go, I can, you know, check in early and get a few more little perks, get on the plane earlier and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So how have you seen, you know, COVID's obviously the top of mind. I still go back to one of the first shows Mike and I did. It was one of the last ones we did live. We were sitting in his shop talking about what COVID was going to do. I think it was in late February, early March before the lockdowns happened. And we talked about what it was going to do. And, there was some speculation it would just, decimate cars just like everything else. And instead, everyone's locked in their houses and they've all gone insane. And they're all, they're all thinking about what they want. Everyone's dusting off their card collections and sending them to get graded, and the marketplaces are going crazy. Mike can't keep cards in his shop.
Right.
What have you seen from the memorabilia side, dealing with the distributors and people you do? What are you seeing from their perspective?
Well, it's basically been the same. And it's interesting because we've got three different perspectives here. A manufacturer's perspective, a store's perspective, and a customer's perspective.
And a degenerate gambler, I admit to both.
Yes. Well, we've all known for many, many years, trading cards it's gambling.
Yes, it is. Correct.
It's that leagues do not like to hear that, but it's gambling.
I'm pretty sure when PointsBet is on every Nuggets ad, they've kind of given up on pretending like gambling on their sports doesn't exist.
Well, they've all gone into it, but they still don't like you to.
Yeah, exactly.
to admit that it's gambling.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But we kind of did like everybody else did. We hit that pause button and we thought,
sure,
okay, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And, the first thing that came to my mind was in 2001. And if you were in the industry in 2001, I mean, it came to a screeching halt back then.
Yeah.
Just because so many people were impacted financially by that. And one of the good things, and there absolutely are some good things that have happened due to COVID, is that a lot of people did not lose their jobs. They were able to work at home and still keep the money coming in. But, for about 2 weeks, it was a little shaky. We didn't know how it was going to go one way or the other. I think we were trying to prepare for the worst. But, after about 2 weeks, people realized that people were still spending money, that evidently everybody that collected cards and bought collectibles still had a job. And they were buying. But, we saw the same thing y'all did. People at home couldn't go to watch any sports, couldn't go to any games, couldn't go to shows or anything like that. So they were taking their dollars and voting online is what they were doing.
Yep.
But, and it's amazing, even though memorabilia is very different than cards. As far as, you see a card comes out and it can go up thousands and thousands of dollars. That does not happen in the memorabilia arena. Memorabilia is really for somebody that is just a collector.
It's personal.
And they want that piece in their collection, whether it be a specific player, a team, or just someone they follow. So, but I would say probably beginning last May, we have sold out of every single product we've made.
Wow.
I remember putting in orders. Putting in orders with TriStar was always a very easy process. I'll get to it. Process, or you can pick it up easily from a distributor. I remember last year sending you an email like, hey, take 6 of these or whatever it was, and you're like, oh, they're gone. I'm like, no,
you can't wait anymore.
Oh my God, no! If you're late, you're out. And I remember talking with you, and I'm like, no. I want 6. Like, wait a second. How can I not get 6? I'll take a case. There's always such a weird experience.
Well, someone had called and said, well, do you have anything, left over that hadn't sold that, we could buy? Because everybody's looking for a product like crazy.
Yeah.
And I said, we have sold everything but the kitchen sink. And that is absolutely, or the fixtures, I think is what I said. We sold
Did the
everything
guy
but the
ask if they were autographed?
Yeah. Can you get those autographed?
Yeah, are they signed? Send them over.
One of the challenges that we faced is when this happened, players stopped signing. And there were no shows. So there was not anywhere for us to purchase autographs and get autographed memorabilia. And then the people that did have any type of quantities of it, it did escalate some in price. Not like cards by any stretch of the imagination, but definitely has gone up in price, but nobody cared. They wanted it and they want more.
It didn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Janyce, have you seen a time? Have you seen a time like what you're seeing currently in your time in the industry? I mean,
No.
no one we've found that I've found yet has said, yeah, it's very similar to X, and we just haven't seen that. So, I'm amazed by it, and I don't know how it got here. I know some of the attributes to it, but there's the whole concept of don't look a gift horse in the mouth, and I'm not going to try to look too hard. I'm just trying to read the tea leaves a little bit. And, I got this guy that I talk to all the time that, he's my bellwether for what's going on in the industry. And so until I see fathers and sons stop rolling into his shop and looking for things, I'm not too worried.
Well, after the early 90s, and that started dying down, I mean, there many of us that were around back then thought, we'll never see that again.
Right.
It'll never happen again. And not only has it happened, it's actually exceeded what we ever saw back then.
Yeah.
So,
technology and the breaking and all that stuff is just changing everything. And I've seen, what I'm seeing now is they have less product. So I'm surprised you guys, I know you guys are getting a lot of your products are all selling out, because I'm seeing those being the juicers in people's breaks. So they're saying, buy a Prism spot and get a TRISTAR jersey. You will open for the winner, whatever. So they're juicing this stuff because they're trying to, they're driving demand, and that's the natural inclination, right?
Yeah. The majority of our products are not true breaker products.
Right.
We have a few, like we've had our signature series and our Quest products, with a couple of Brady things. We had some breakers get involved in, but just a case of mini helmets or a case of jerseys. Not a lot of breaks going on, but I do see them in the breaks that they like you said, you called them juicers. I call them an incentive, whatever. But they, and I don't care what they do with them as long as they're buying them.
Right, exactly. And I know I sent you pictures back, Mr. Burns over at Grand Slam. I bought one of those Brady helmets from him, and it happened to be a pretty epic one with a signature and how he'd signed off on the Super Bowl and MVP, et cetera. And a person I'm in the restaurant industry with is from Boston and is a huge Patriots fan, and that helmet is now displayed proudly in his living room. And so the interesting part is, I would never give a card away, but I give memorabilia away to people that I know it means a lot to all the time, because you hit it right up front. That the commoditization is on the card side. That's where you bought an asset and it's worth more and move it. The memorabilia is more a memory. It's a true memory, and it isn't going to escalate.
It's a collectible.
Yeah, correct.
Which originally is what trading cards were supposed to be, a collectible.
They've changed.
Well, there still are a few hardcore collectors out there that are still trying to finish their 57 Fleer set or something. So that still is in existence. I mean, Jeff, our owner, he still is a big collector.
Right. Yeah,
So
you have to
Janice,
have a passion.
are you
Go ahead,
seeing
Mike.
the same thing the second when you're sending out an order form where, it's the same rush to get that you saw perhaps last year, or have you seen a tone down at all?
Yeah, you said the order form.
When you send out an email, when you send out a blast
Mhm.
email, are you seeing the same quick responses, or is it tapered down a little bit?
Uh, Actually, the last few things we've had, the responses have been quicker than ever. Even, because I realize how a distributor operates, and that's most of my customer base is distributors.
Okay.
And they've got to turn around and send out the information, and then they start their call process.
Mm-hmm.
And we give them a date when the orders are due. So, but a lot of them now is because everything's allocated.
Right.
That's one thing. Another thing difference between memorabilia and cards, and cards, even though you're more restricted now because of the autographs, the game use, the patches, and all of that numbering. Where it used to, they just ran it 24/7 and away you went. But where was I going with this?
Allocations.
But, we have a pretty finite amount that we can make of any given
Sure.
product based on what's available out there. Which,
Right.
as I alluded to earlier, it's harder right now during this time frame to come up with the items. But instead of now, I have a lot of distributors. I give them an allocation, and they immediately respond. I'll take my full allocation. Please put me down for more if available. I mean, that's every single product. And when we have our weekly meetings, and I'm telling them about this, well, we sold this much, we could have sold 3 times this. Everybody wants more. I said, I know you guys are tired of hearing me say this. And they said, no, we're not. Just keep saying it.
Yeah. No good salesperson doesn't say I can sell more.
Yeah. No.
So with TRISTAR, one of the things I've really appreciated lately is you guys have pretty much maintained your pricing structure. We're still seeing roughly the same prices coming down the line on each release. So thanks for doing that. But I mean, how tough is it to resist temptation when everything is selling out? When you're seeing, without being specific, well, every other manufacturer charging more for their products. I mean, you guys are pretty much keeping your toe in the line. How tough is it to do that?
Well, Mike, we actually have had some price increases. They're not anything I would say that is on the ridiculous side, but it's just been because of the cost of goods are more expensive.
Sure.
The trading card manufacturers, they want to sell it to you guys at full retail.
Yeah.
That doesn't work on the memorabilia side. But yeah, we try to keep it reasonable, and because ours is what it is. It's because it's not going to increase in value. We have to try to be able to deliver the value for the price points we're putting on it. So yeah, we haven't had any big run up on anything, but we have taken a little bump on a couple of things, but it's been out of necessity.
It hasn't been that bad where it's been that apparent. At least
No.
not what we're seeing otherwise in the industry.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting because 2 years ago, it might be 3 years ago, because the industry's really been in good shape for a couple of years before the pandemic been hit. But if we'd raised something $10, I'd get a call. Well, Janyce, this has gone up. And da, 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 da. Now we have a price increase. No one says a word.
As long as you have the product, they don't care what it costs.
Yeah. Can I have more?
Yeah.
we had
This price is fine. Can I have more of it?
We had a Bowman increase a couple years ago, where it was 20%, 30%, whatever it was, and in a split second, it was, oh man, it costs this much more. Oh, I can get that many of them, and that's kind of I can get 10 cases. Awesome, thank you. And I think that's kind of where we're at now, still, and we're still seeing bumps. And hey, look, there are costs associated with product, and these are soon to be at least one soon to be a publicly traded company, and they have to report to people, and
Yeah.
people got to get fed. So I get it. And I think at this point, I think shop owners and distributors are kind of a look, whatever it is, we'll do it, which is, I guess it's in a good position to be in where we don't have to worry about every cost dollar. But it's kind of disconcerting that this goes on and there's no brushback. And I'm not trying to organize anything here, but it's, if it continues to happen at some point, there's going to be brushback. I mean, I'm from a card perspective, I'm seeing it from consumers when they come in on opening day and they're like, oh my God, it's that much, especially folks who've been with us for a long time. So I don't know, just it's got to be interesting to be in an industry where you can pass it along and there's no resistance.
Well, you do wonder where the ceiling is on this pricing, because we all know it's got to hit the wall at some point in time.
Yeah.
And I'm certainly very aware of some of the price increases there's been on the trading cards.
Sure.
And, my concern, because I have that trading card background, is they know at some time when things do start calming down, they're not going to be able to get those prices for them. So what are you going to do? Dummy down the product?
Right. Yeah. The infrastructure set them up to make X number of dollars. And, what's funny is one of the things that's happening today, boxes of cards have gone up, ungodly amounts of money.
Oh,
and
yeah.
What happens is the entire breaking industry just keeps compounding on itself, because the higher the price of the box, the more breakers will sell you an individual card. And it's kind of like taking the pressure off. But at some point it becomes untenable even for that. So, so what you get now is Joe can't come into Mike's card shop and buy a box of cards, but he can go to Frank's breaker site and get a pack of cards that can get busted. And so the dynamic has shifted heavily. When the prices turn, I don't think it's going to be pleasant, but I also don't think there's going to be that same bottom, because people have been trained in.
Yeah. Well, logic tells you that it can't work the same way.
Right. That's
at
right.
that point in time.
That's right.
But, it's, we're all just keeping our fingers crossed that this goes on as long as it possibly can. In truth, we have added a lot of collectors into the market over the last 3 years, realistically. So I don't think it'll just die.
Right.
But you can get to a point where you price people out of something.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you guys, because you brought up Topps going public. What's your take on that?
Mine is, I'm very interested to see where this goes, from the standpoint of, could this be the way that other manufacturers go? I don't know how long how long the Widow wants to own it. And then you've also got Panini, who paid, I don't know what they paid, and it's probably won't be said on this phone call, but now that's probably, they're now looking at $1 billion profit in that company. And when does it go public? Who buys it? As people want to get into the trading card industry at the box and pack level and case level, there are obviously people who want to get in at the industry level. Brian Gray reported that he's had countless offers for his company where people they can't start one, so let's just buy one.
Yeah.
So at what point does Panini get sold, and where does it go? So now you've got potentially shareholders who are going to be, there are more people to be answered to. So does Bowman go from what it was 5 years ago to 3 years ago to now, and where does it continue to go? Does Topps go with more of an online selling format where they're getting retail for their products? Does more product get taken away from shops and distributors and reallocated in that direction? So from a shop owner's perspective, I'm very interested in seeing where it goes. I would love to see status quo with what we have right now. However, I don't expect that. You're going to have different people whose opinions are going to matter, and it'll be very interesting to see where it goes.
Well, Mike, I don't think they'll ever take product away from you guys to sell online. I think they'll sell as much as they can online and as much as they can to the distributors and to stores. The question will be and it ultimately is at your level, do you have customers for it? Because if you don't have customers for it, then you can't buy from a distributor. So they don't have customers for it either. So I don't think it'll be the manufacturers taking it away from you directly like that.
Yeah. So where
Or
I
more
sit,
indirect.
go ahead, Mike.
I look at first off the line, and I look at Panini's successful efforts in hitting end users. And every box that gets sold that way is one less box in theory that could go through the distribution channel. There's a lot of shops who are trying to get direct, who can't get direct, who in theory aren't getting those cases and aren't building and aren't growing. So I mean, I have no idea how their amounts, what quantities are allocated to those two specific means of selling. But I mean, at some point, the amount that they're selling to us, economically, you can't just turn down those dollars. It's so easy. I don't do the first off the lines. I don't do the day of release shopping on Panini, but I sure hear about it. Either direct conversation with me or background conversation in the shop, and those are all seemingly selling out in minutes. And except for the Dutch auctions, but everything is selling out so quickly. I mean, at some point, you kind of have to reallocate and say, look, let's sell another 50 cases that way, another 100 cases that way. And it's
But Mike, they're printing those cards. Well, they just are going to print more.
well, I mean, they can't print so many in regard to the autograph level. So
the autographs, that's true.
Yeah.
And
so the guarantee has to go
they
down,
can,
right?
as long as they're willing to
goes
pay
down.
for those autographs.
Yeah, I'm waiting for you literally any box of cards you say 2 autographs per box on average. I'm waiting for whatever the number is today. I'm waiting for where it says 1 autograph per every 2 boxes on average, and one memorabilia card per box. Because to do that, they're going to have to engage that, and you're going to see it change in how they have to push. Because today there's certain representations, and in general, those reps aren't changing. So they can't be printing a ton more cards because those reps would start changing otherwise. And so I think, or they're getting a bunch more memorabilia and autos, and I just don't see the players doing more autos than they've done historically, given where we're seeing the plays.
This is, I'm just making observations here. We've seen Prism football go from 3 autographs a box to 2. Well, how many more pieces do you make when you're getting assumingly the same amount of autographs, and now you don't have to distribute it that way? And also, how much more retail is getting made where it's not autograph based, it's parallel based, and some level of numbered based. So, I mean, in theory, I would love to see every single box go through hobby shops or go through distributors to get to hobby shops. And I understand that genie's not going back in that bottle. It's too much money is being made to go back. And I'm not upset where things are. I'm just trying to have constant awareness so that hey, look, I don't want anybody at any point to go, wow, the shops are so annoying. We're just going to, and there's more money to be made selling all to end users. But in theory, if Panini got sold tomorrow, if somebody, kind of like the guy who bought the pharmaceutical guy, he said, wow, this pill is really undervalued. We can it's not a $16 bill, it's a pill, it's a $50 pill. And to anybody who buys any of these manufacturers, you just go, you know what? Why are we selling product to stores at a discounted rate when we just have to put it online and it'll say 2 hours to sell out, or maybe we'll just carry it for a little bit longer and continue the process that way. That's the thing that keeps me up at night. Well, actually, nothing keeps me up at night because I work till 2:30 in the morning. By 2:30, I'm probably ready for bed anyway.
Yes, and thank you for not suggesting we do this at 2:30 in the morning.
Janyce, that was a 50-50 proposition. I think I had it gated by 11 as well. And so Mike, the one thing I'll tell you, Panini's doing their homework. Obviously their Dutch auctions and their IPOs they're doing online. That's them doing all their diligence around market pricing and getting all that feel direct to consumer. And, it's not going to go away. And if you're, a public company wants as much of the supply chain in their wallet as they can, because that's what their shareholders want. Thinking about what's happening with Topps, the way they went public is a little funky because a SPAC bought them. And so the money went from a SPAC wallet into the shareholders' wallets. So that doesn't necessarily infuse Topps with more capital. It can, because they can offer shares out afterwards. But, generally, if you have an IPO of something, like if Panini went public and that kind of thing, you'd get an infusion of capital. And what happens is, then you can innovate, you can make crazy decisions, but that's only the initial. Over time, you go, hell, I got to make more money or my shareholders are going to shoot me in the head. And so you have, your commitment to doing what's right is tempered by commitment to doing what's going to keep your shareholders happy. And that's always a balance that people have to have publicly. And so I'm real curious what Topps is going to do. I think this whole NFT stuff I think it's just one step beyond Dutch tulips. As I joke, it's personalized and autographed Dutch tulips, because I'm still not a Bitcoin believer yet. But I'm an old fogey apparently, and I walked uphill both ways to school because I can't see a picture of something that's unique and distributed, can only be that one, being valuable. But that's probably an old school mentality, and a bunch of 20 somethings and 30 somethings think it's awesome.
Well, obviously it is. What is it, that NBA Top Shot?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's just taken off like crazy. But I'm with you, Sean. I can't see I own a picture of something on the computer being what a collector would be interested in.
I've bought, and what Mike and I have talked about this, I've bought a number of products from Panini where I get a blockchain card in my bus.
Right.
So I have a nice gallery of blockchain cards sitting on Panini. They're all available for sale, and I just do the classic eBay style. I put a price that's ridiculous out there for them, and people buy them anyway. And I'm like, wait a minute. This is a picture. I could take my phone right now and take a picture of the picture on my screen and say I own that. How in the hell is this worth any money? And I can't figure it out. It feels it just feels unnatural to me. But yet we sit in a country where the currency is based upon the future economic development and performance of our country. So I'm not sure.
Let's don't go there.
This isn't politics. It's simply we're not tied. Our currency's not tied to a gold standard or anything like that. So
no, not at all.
Who am I to judge Bitcoin because it's the same stuff? And it's like, hold on. And it's just I don't understand it, and I'm trying to figure out what makes it move. And these damn NFTs are the same thing. I just can't figure them out yet. I'll try. I'm gonna spend some time, but it's crazy stuff.
Yeah, no, it is. And it's interesting you brought that up, because there was two things that happened during my 30-year tenure in this industry. The first one was Magic the Gathering. And I believe it was probably around 93, maybe, when they did their first release. And we thought, oh, they won't be around a year. And, they certainly had their ups and downs as well. But, they had a very solid program put in place. And there was obviously I don't know if it was a need necessarily, but an audience for that type of thing out there. And then the second was breakers. Mm-hmm. The first time, and I had a distributor call me, and this is just when the breakers were just starting to get out there, and they were still buying their product from buy product to do a break with it. And he called and we were talking about it, and I said, okay, now let me understand this. You're going to pay somebody and watch them open your product.
Yeah.
It took me forever to wrap my mind around it. Yeah. And then we did a break with, I think it was mini helmet, back at one of the nationals several years ago. And they had it up there, and then I saw all the comments and the people exchanges between the people on there. And I thought, oh, that's it. This is taking the place of the hobby store, which at that time there weren't a lot of hobby stores, and it became the community. So, but it took me seeing that to really kind of understand. And, I've watched a lot of breaks through the years, and some of those breakers are very entertaining. Yeah. And sometimes with Nate, I have to just mute him.
Yeah, Mike's a kinder, gentler soul. I've learned his own air is. But I sometimes get on his chat board and spice him up a little bit, but that's my job.
But
not, Janice,
some of them are like watching paint dry.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But they have a big following.
Yeah.
So to each his own.
Yeah.
Yes, Janice, I just got called reserved by Sean.
Only reserved to your customers. As a friend, you're not reserved. As a customer, you are, because you found over time you need to be. It's okay.
Well, you know, it's interesting about Nate, because if you visit with Nate one-on-one, he's really a very introverted person
Yep.
and very quiet, doesn't ever say any off-colored words or anything. But the minute his other persona, he gets on there. I mean, it's unbelievable. The first time, and a lot of times, you know, when I'm laying in bed at night and my husband's reading and I'll turn Nate on, he said, "Who is that?"
Well, Janice, the one thing you and I probably both share about Mike is Mike's the same damn person to everybody. You know, if you ever want to have fun, you sit in his shop for an hour and listen to the smarm on the phone calls, which is completely, the person on the other end probably has no idea what he's saying to them, but everyone that knows him knows. And he's the same way all the time. And that consistency is an asset. There definitely are on-air personas people have.
Well, now, Sean, I've seen him at the summit, so kind of towing up with people.
Your Jaeger might's involved in those activities, though.
So, Janice, I've got to ask, this is just purely for my benefit, and then we'll expand upon this. What'd you have for dinner tonight?
Pardon me. I had some tortilla soup, chicken tortilla soup.
Okay, good. That seems very appropriate. The reason I bring this up is I do a Fruitman dinner whenever we do a industry summit or go out there. We used to have all the evenings planned and booked, and then it just kind of went away. We're all like left to fend for ourselves, which is fine. But so Janice is somebody I always want at the dinner, and one year I will pick a great place. We were kind of going to do it like where we were going to go to the top of the Rio. We were going to eat up there last year if we actually did this thing. So I always try to find a dinner place, and I always do it wrong because I can't pick the right place for Janice. We had one at Beckett a few years ago in Dallas, and I chose an Italian place to go for dinner. And Janice is like, "What is it? You're coming to Texas and you're taking everybody out for Italian?"
And it wasn't even great Italian. There are a lot better Italian places, but I mean, we're known for steak, barbecue, Mexican food.
Oh yeah.
You know, a lot of places with some local flavor. And nope, we're going to Kenny's Italian place.
Well, Janice, you know, Mike and I and you have had social media back and forth, so I know about this. But when you do come to Denver, we are taking you to the best steak place in Denver. And that steak place also opened a location in Houston called Garden Grace. So it is as good as it gets. And so when you come to Denver, because you are going to at some point, one night we're locking you up.
I guess we're going to travel again at some point in time.
At some point we will.
It looks like right now we are planning our Houston show in June, early June. So I'll probably be going down there.
Are you guys planning on having a full show and having capacity and all the limits and everything will be the same as pre-COVID?
Well, we're not, you know, they're still working out because Houston has been a little more restrictive than they have up where I live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, because Kyle that runs the Dallas Card Show, I mean, he's had, you know, and I don't think there's a lot of distancing going on at those shows.
That's right. That's right.
But I think Houston's a little more uptight about that, and they so she's not sure yet how they're going to have to do the tables and so forth and so on. I feel like everybody will still be masked down there, even though our governor has lifted the mask mandate. Still a lot of people here wearing the mask.
Yeah.
So I've gotten, used to it when I took it off, and I
Yeah.
thought, oh my gosh, I need plastic surgery now.
Well, my wife has said HD cameras, because she works all day at home like I do, Zoom. HD cameras are the worst thing ever. And so she has a doctor friend of hers, and the doctor friend has said business is booming for plastic
Oh, I'm
surgeries.
sure.
Because everyone's staring at these screens all day going, oh my God, I gotta fix this, 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 and this. I'm like, I ain't fixing this anytime soon. So everyone has their ways, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Sean, I this is the first time I think I've noticed that you've not gone black down there. This is
Well,
kinda
no. So there's a story behind that. A while, like when this first started coming in, where I had a mane here on each side, I decided I was going to buy some just for men, like medium light brown, and I put it in, and then I washed it out, and it almost didn't change the color at all. So then I put it back in, and I left it on for 5 minutes. And you know what happens when you leave that stuff on? No matter what color it's supposed to be, it turns black. And so I washed it off, and all of a sudden I had this normal colored mustache, and I had this dark black beard. So then I sat in the shower and I scrubbed it for the better part of 20 minutes to get all that darkness out of it. And then for the next 3 days, all my skin was peeling off my face where I'd scrubbed so much. So I said, all right, I just got to own the color of whatever it is it'll be, and I'm not going to worry about that too much more. The hassle wasn't worth the benefit in my book.
Well, a lot of women like that, Sean, like that gray stuff. So
well, they're getting plenty of it in this.
Don't knock it.
So Janyce, I know we just talked about the Houston show. And the first time I met you in person was at the National 2 years ago. And I was lucky enough to have Nate reserve one of those vaults. And so I got to open that with you. And we had somebody that's now a friend of mine. She came, and we put skin in the game for her, because if there was a Steeler that showed up, it was game on. So what do you think, what are you thinking for National this year? Obviously there wasn't one last year, despite an attempt at rescheduling. So what do you think it's going to be like? I mean, I'm hearing a lot of people thinking it's going to be the most ridiculous event in history because of the amount of pent up interest.
I mean, that was one of the regrets from last year, because we felt like it would be the biggest national ever, which up until now, the 91 National has always been known as the biggest national ever. And I think everybody's anticipating the same thing for this year, that it's going to be incredible.
Yeah. Anything you want to tell our listeners and others about what's going to go on there that you'd like to put out there for TriStar or for yourself?
Well, obviously TriStar runs the autograph pavilion at the National. They have for many, many years now. And, they're lining up guests continuously. So we're moving forward, full boat here. Yeah. We're working on a promotion for our booth, because I usually have a booth out on the floor in the corporate section. So we try to do it where we don't have cards where you can bring something over and get cards. But you bring something over, and we have something for you, and then we give away a lot of really nice memorabilia during that time. We probably won't do any breaking in the booth this year like we've done the past several years. So I'll miss that. But I just don't think I'm going to have a product that's going to be conducive to breaking. And I think we're going to be busy. I think it's going to be really, really busy.
I do too.
And so I'm, definitely looking forward to it. I mean, that's the first national that I've missed in all these years. Yep. So it is the hardest week of my life. I have to tell
I bet. It's got to be a labor of love, though, because with the people and the people that come up with a smile on their face because of the relationship and stuff, that's got to make it easier than
it's always great to see a lot of the old dealers that I've known for years and years, and some of them the vintage dealers because initially back when Kit started the trade show over in Hawaii, it was mainly vintage dealers coming over there. And so the ones that are still around, I still have friendships with them. So it's always good to see them. And then we have customers that have been coming up and doing our promotions with us for years and years and years. And this one couple in particular, their son was just a little thing at the time, and now he's grown, has a degree in microbiology or something like that. And he came last year, the year before last, he came to see me. It was with his girlfriend, not his mom and dad.
Right.
But we watched the kids grow up. So it's been neat, and it is. That's what you enjoy about it the most. It's just seeing everybody.
Yeah. So, we had John on a while back, John Brogy, and he talked about National, and he had a story about a rogue person bringing somebody in to sign things in one of the Nationals. And I'd be remiss if I didn't give you a chance to share a story or two about National that just sticks in your head and like leaves a smile on your face, because it can't all be the trudge of work while you're there.
Oh my gosh.
It's like a librarian, right? Which
Sean,
book do you pick?
Yeah, that's the thing. There's been so many.
Best signer, biggest list of demands, worst signer. You won't say worst.
But because I don't work back in the autograph area,
right.
I don't, see a lot of that. Now, we have had years where our booth has been back there. Right. And, it's interesting because Hulk Hogan always draws a tremendous crowd. And the year we had him after, something about, he had said something kind of, I think that was not politically, racially correct. And
right.
There was a big brouhaha about it. Didn't make any difference to his fans. They were there in force. And then the first time we had Roger Clemens, who is a very, very nice man. The first time he came back to the show after his situation, he sold the most autographs. So, it's always fun to watch the people out there meeting the people they look up to.
Yeah.
For me personally, one of my best memories from the National is spending some time with Bart Starr.
Yeah. And
there just wasn't and never will be anybody else as nice as that man is. He wanted to talk to all of the people that were paying to get his autograph. And if you were back in the back with him, he would visit with you. Just as nice as he could be. Just wonderful. And then I've seen a lot of guys that, were kind of from my childhood that were the heroes. And I see them come now and they're frail, they're walking on canes, and, it's really sad. I remember the last year Gail Sayers came, and, he could barely sign his name and he would have to stop. As a matter of fact, I think he probably finished after the show signing everything.
Sure.
But, that's always sad to see that too. You're glad they're still there. They're still with us, but it's when you remember them from the days when they were at their peak of their physical condition. And I have a funny story about Warren Spahn. And many, many years ago, I went to a distributor event, and he had brought Warren Spahn in, and we had made cards of Warren Spahn and had them there for people to sign. And I don't know how old he was then. I know in his 70s. He could have been in his 80s. I don't remember when he passed away exactly. But he was signing for people, and he says, "I've got to have a smoke." He just stopped what he was doing and lay back in that chair and lit up. And then there was this one kid that came to get his autograph, and this little boy walked up to him. He says, "How many wives do you have, kid?" And he just had a wicked sense of humor. And he came down later and joined us at the bar and was drinking and carrying on like crazy. But even in his older years, that's just another vivid memory for me.
Yeah, it's amazing how many of the memories, the memories that I hold dearest is when I find out that people that are phenomenal, great athletes are just normal people.
Yeah.
And it's like that feels, they don't think of themselves as some amazing athlete. They think about themselves as your neighbor. And, the people that I remember like that just mean the most to me.
Yeah.
And, it's amazing how that works. And that's why, signed memorabilia and stuff, you just said the thing about Gale Sayers. That's exactly right. You have an autograph from Gale Sayers. You're not thinking about the old, frail Gale Sayers. You're remembering the Gale Sayers that was untackleable and scoring the most touchdowns in NFL history in a game. You're remembering that guy. And that's just, those memories are just, they're treasures. And that's what we all try to value.
Exactly. And even, even if because I always regretted not getting an autograph of Muhammad Ali.
Mm-hmm.
I did get a picture taken with him. But my best memory of him is we were doing a TRISTAR show here in Dallas, and he was still an autograph guest then. Mm-hmm. And this was the year, I think the show was in September, and it was right after the Olympics where he had lit the torch. And Jeff very graciously invited my husband and myself over to his sister's house for a private dinner, and it was Muhammad and his wife Lonnie and their son, and there probably weren't more than 20 people there. Mm-hmm. And to me, and I've met a lot of players through the years and spent some significant time with some of them, but that is such a special memory for me. We had dinner, and then we were sitting in the little kitchen area, and he came in and started doing his little sleight of hands magic tricks that he did. He wasn't very audible at that time, but he would do it and break out in that big smile of his. And
I know a couple people who met him, kind of earlier before it was completely, past all the with the illness getting him, and they said, he just, when he's in a room, there's nobody else in the room. Like he's just, and it's natural. It's just who he is. And it's, people like that are amazing, right? He just has this gravitas, but I'm amazed by people like that the whole room is captured by them and their personas. It's pretty incredible to see.
Yeah. Well, it was such an emotional and memorable thing when he lit the torch.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was amazing.
Yeah.
That was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it was. And so that probably out of everything, and it's ironic that I work for Jeff now, and he provided me with probably what has been the most memorable thing that's ever happened to me in this industry. But I'm forever thankful for that. And believe me, I've been back in the room with where Dan Marino, when he was really good looking, walking around signing stuff, got his glass of wine in hand.
Yeah.
But nothing tops the Ali experience.
No good, any good Elway stories?
Oh, I have a lot of Elway stories. Well, my first Elway story was actually the first Super Bowl we ever went to, which I believe was 92 or 93, because we didn't have football cards at the very beginning. And my son was 16 at the time, and they went with me. And I had a good friend that was running the autograph stage. And so John came up to sign, and back then they only had one person up there at a time signing. And he asked my son Garrett, he said, "You want to go up here and sit with John while he signs all this stuff?" And so, Garrett's 16, sure. He went up there and sat by John Elway, got all kinds of autographs from John Elway. And then John, he was very good friends with Bill Barron of the NFL, and Bill ran the Super Bowl card show, which was one of my favorite things in the whole world. I hate they don't do it anymore. But Bill would come to Hawaii every year, and he always brought John. And they'd sit back and, drink, and we sat and visited with them. And, so that was always very special as well. So there was one other thing I thought about. I can't think of it right at the moment, but yeah, I feel so fortunate to have done the things I've been able to do and meet the people I've been able to meet, and not just the players, but the people I've worked with, the people my customers, Mike, yourself, just that I've met through the years. It's just been a great experience. You know, you never thought that you're going to grow up and sell trading cards or
Yeah.
memorabilia.
Right.
Or maybe you did, Mike. I didn't think that. I got into this kind of late in the game for me, but anyway. But then to have all the other things that have been a part of it, so it's a wonderful industry. You know, I love it. I love it more than anything I've ever done, and
That's great.
so very thankful to still be doing it.
So Janyce, we've talked mostly about TriStar, and that's certainly the most appropriate. But as a card shop, I'm interested also in some of the playoff moments. So can you tell me about when you got going at playoff, and then also to look at the hobby right now and where it's going. 2,000 contenders, Tom Brady's being what they are. Some of the things that happened, not under your watch, but while you were involved with the company. I mean, what are your thoughts about some of those and some of the products? And I'm a card geek, so the more card news I can get, the better.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned contenders because I named that product.
All right.
What?
It was the second
Now we're
release.
talking.
There's a tidbit I didn't know about. That's
The
awesome.
second or third release we did after we got the trading card license, and the Super Bowl was coming up, and this was, and I went to our product guy in probably in November, and I said, why don't we do a product that kind of features the Super Bowl contenders, and we'll just call it Contenders.
Mhm.
And they did. They took that name and ran with it, and still use it. Prime was another one that I kind of suggested that name, and then I also kind of I'm going to take credit for it. Back in early days, because there weren't any autographs or game used or anything. So Upper Deck did a back-to-back card, and that was a big thing at the time. And so I went to the same product guy, and because I think Contenders was the first product we did this in, and I said, well, let's put 2 players on each side, and let's call that a quad. And I said, okay, we did that.
Was it 1996?
19.
Was it 1996 that you did the quad?
I was thinking it was earlier than that, Mike.
Okay.
But I don't know. I'd have to go back. Playoff actually did quite a bit at first. Those cards were the first 24 point. All the cards in the box were 24 point. Was in the box with the hinges that were very popular. For years, I would see people at the shows carrying their cards around in those card boxes.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And it was on a process called Tech Chrome, and they were $3.48 a pack, which was unheard of back then.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
It's unheard of now, but for a different reason.
That would be a base card now.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
We had one of those boxes in the store the other day. I think it was like an Andre Reed one where it was like the snap down case.
Yeah. We called them cigar box styles, but
somebody had to have it. They're like, how much is the empty box? I'm like, just enjoy it. I mean, I could do Andre Reed. I just knew it would make him happy. So 1998, you've got Contenders, and then you dropped in the Peyton Manning autograph cards.
Yeah, and I don't remember specifically. No, Contenders, we did Contenders much earlier. I think we did.
Absolutely. I want to say like 93 was the first year.
Yeah, I think that was probably the first Contenders product.
But in 1998, you guys kicked in the autographed cards, and then you've got, you just happen to be Moss, Fred Taylor, to a lesser extent Manning. I mean, that was a crazy set with those autographs. I mean, right now, I mean, I don't even know how many people know about those cards because they don't even come up that often. But
Yeah,
that was,
I haven't seen one in years, Mike. I mean, I that Manning Contenders auto is like one. There's 4 cards left in my PC that I don't have, and that's one of the 4. I can't find them.
Heinz Ward from that same set also. But like,
I have that
I'm
one.
gonna have to. I went through.
I have Heinz.
Cards the other day, and I know I saw some Moss and some Peyton Manning in there. I have to go back and look at those, and so I don't remember which set they were from.
So
Yeah.
So what's the Janyce collection look like? I mean, I'm looking behind you. There's a dollar bill. There's not all sorts of autographed memorabilia behind you. I gotta ask about the dollar bill, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's from I don't know what it was when I worked for GTE Directories. It was just a little gizmo that they, a little tchotchke that they gave to people.
But
So Janyce, what is it? Like, we ask one standard question, and it's all we walk through is, what's the one collectible that you would never part with?
Oh, you guys are gonna be so disappointed with this because most of my stuff, we've downsized twice over the years. And, I used to collect everything.
Sure.
As you can imagine, when you're in the industry, it's very easy to do. And this was sports, non-sports, comic cards. I mean, I had everything, Beanie Babies. But most of my collection is with my 17-year-old grandson, who is a sports fanatic. He can give you every stat of every sport. And we were talking on Easter Sunday, and I said something about Vic Schaefer, who's now gone to Texas to coach he's the women's basketball coach. And I said, he came from Ole Miss. He said, no, it was Mississippi State. I said, oh, you're right, Drew. It was, and I would not have thought he would have known Vic Schaefer.
Sure.
Coached the championship team at Mississippi State. But anyway, but probably my prized possession in that collection that he has is my Willie Mays baseball. Willie Mays and Don Drysdale were my favorite players when I hated the Yankees.
Yeah.
I rooted for them. So I got a Willie Mays ball very, very early in my career in this industry. And I used to have people sign baseballs. Like I have or Drew has it now, but a Joe Namath signed baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had a lot of signed baseballs. But he has some. The things I kept now are small, like my Super Bowl pins. I still have all of those.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't do anything with them, but I have them and I like them.
Yep. And I guarantee you every set has a memory. Every set has a memory of that Super Bowl probably too. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one of the Super Bowl that was in Atlanta, because Coca-Cola was there, and it had, the pins were huge back then. Every vendor had their own pin, and Coca-Cola had a big trading station for pins, and it was just so much fun. And it, because you had the trading part of it, which is what I enjoyed about the cards, was the trading part of it. And then I have some Mother's Cookies cards. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of those.
Yeah.
But
one of us has.
Well, Mother's Cookies was is a California-based company, I believe San Francisco. And we used to do a big Labor Day show out in San Francisco, and they always set up there. And when you came in, they would give you a little envelope that had like 6 or 8 of the 15 card set or whatever it was. And then they had a big place set up, and you could go and trade and with people, or they'd have cards out on the table. People would leave cards there, and you could trade and finish your set. and because I just love that concept so much
Right.
that I still have those Mother's Cookies cards. But, you know, just not anything big at all. You know, I do not own a Tom Brady piece. They did not give us one for Christmas.
That's too bad.
Yeah, I know.
If
Uh,
we ever get Jeff on, we'll have to ask about that.
do
Yeah.
what?
If we ever get Jeff on, we'll ask him what.
Yeah, yeah. So, have some Ken Griffey, well, I had two Ken Griffey Jr. baseballs, and you know,
We gotta
but
get you now that you guys have Larry Walker signing for you every minute of every day, you gotta get you a Larry Walker.
you know, he's really a nice man. I don't know, you know, Jeff taped some things this, he taped them, he did them live over the summer with various players. And I really enjoyed those. Lance Bergman, I just thought did a great job. So, you know, some of them are very personable, and I think it always makes you feel good when you see them that they're personable. And because I have met some that were not.
Yes, I need to apologize, I guess, somewhat for inspiring Jeff to be online as much as, at least at the beginning, pushing him to do more Facebook Live, because, you know, being able to see the behind the moment scenes with Jeff and some of the autograph sessions. I mean, just people will sit there and I imagine they would watch Dan Marino sign autographs for 2 hours, just, you know, for any of the side stories and just those
Yeah.
moments like that you can't buy. So I apologize for making Jeff start to do that.
For making what?
Oh, suggesting to Jeff that he do more Facebook Live at his
Oh,
autographs.
well, I think he likes doing it actually, but he's got to be buying more products so I can sell, Mike.
Yeah, he needs to go live more often then and get more things signed.
But you talk about someone that has some stories. Jeff is just, you know, he has incredible stories. He started collecting when he was just a kid, and he would, you know, get somebody to take him up to the hotels where the players were staying, and he'd go to the fields and get autographs, and he just continued to do that. Went to college, got a law degree, and said, well, I think I'm going to give a shot at show promotion before I try being a lawyer. And he gave it a shot, and it worked for him. So, you know, he turned his passion into a business, and he is still extremely passionate about this business, about collecting. But, you know, he just has some incredible stories. So, guys,
we got to get him on one day.
yeah, definitely.
Any thoughts about doing another trading card set, or is that something we probably won't see from TriStar?
You know, we toss it around. You know, I've been begging for them to do something with cards the last, you know, 3 years at least, because, you know, cards were so popular. Even if we just did slabbed cards, of course, you know, getting anything graded now is a nightmare.
Yeah.
So
yeah, plan now and you can have it out by 2023.
yeah, exactly. But, you know, we do toss it around, and nothing, I won't ever say nothing is off the table.
Okay.
So,
Good.
you know, I mean, I loved when we did the minor league cards, and we did some wrestling cards, but I think we really kind of set the standard for the wrestling cards. We really elevated that up, and but you know, you just got to have a good substantial base of customers to do card production.
Oh, you know, AEW's out there. Nobody's making an AEW set right now.
Oh, and AEW's
All Elite Wrestling.
Oh, well, like I said, nothing's off the table.
I was waiting for like the notepad to come out and be like, hey, that's a great idea. We'll talk to Cody Rhodes. We'll get some autographs going. We'll make this happen.
Yeah. Well, that is one thing with the wrestling community. They're really good about autographs.
Yeah. And they have loyal fan base. They have a very loyal fan
they
base.
do. It's just, you just need a bigger fan base.
Yeah, it needs to be bigger. So Janyce, we always give our guests a little time at the end of the show to, get whatever they want to get off their mind. And if it's to promote something, if it's to, shout out to a charity that they're involved in, whatever that is. So we'll give you the floor here for a couple of minutes before we wrap up to share what you'd like to share.
I feel so deficient because there's not a lot on my mind. I am a big supporter of St. Jude, and I've sent things to Nate for St. Jude before.
Yep.
And I love what he's done with the Tillman Foundation too. Obviously, we did a lot with Pat Tillman when I was at Donruss Playoff. So that's something that is near and dear to my heart as well. So, just encourage people to enjoy their hobby and get out there and, don't always go for the biggest, most expensive thing. If you enjoy
What are you talking about?
Other than you, Sean. I know you're going for the biggest and most expensive.
Sometimes.
Measured football releases tomorrow. Please don't say don't go for the most expensive thing. I gotta ask something, and if you know the story, I'd love to hear it specifically. But when Pat Tillman passed away, Playoff was in possession of one of his jerseys, and soon thereafter, if I remember correctly, there was a call made out and to return the jersey to the family. I am aware of that, and I believe we did. But Mike, I can't tell you beyond a positive, with no doubt that we did, but I believe we did. Now that you brought that up, I brought this picture in here. Let's see if you guys can see this.
Yeah, I know that guy.
Well, it's right. I'm blocked. I'm sorry. So what am I missing here? I'm sorry.
Well, it's a picture of Babe Ruth with the jersey that Donruss Playoff bought, which was a game-used jersey, and it was cut up and put in trading cards.
Yeah, that was your signature early event, right?
There was a big flack over that.
Yeah,
I can tell you.
Yeah. How could you cut up a jersey? What are you doing? That.
Yeah. Well, especially that jersey. It's not like there's going to be another one.
Right. That's right. That's right.
And we went out and did a show in Vegas, and I think it was the Home Run Derby, and there was a little show involved with it, and we took that jersey on the plane with us. We were all a nervous wreck.
Yeah, I bet.
But we had it displayed in our this was before we cut it up, obviously. We had it displayed in a glass display at this show. Got a lot of attention, and we took a lot of abuse because of it.
Sure.
It's not the Mona Lisa. Well, to some people, I'm sure it was.
Yeah, I'll say some it is.
Bigger than the Mona Lisa, I can tell you that.
Yeah, sure. That's no doubt. That is one of the most disappointing things ever is to go to the Louvre and see the Mona Lisa in person. And you're like,
walk in there and it's like, is this it?
Yeah, and you can't stand close enough to make it significant. You have the binoculars to get the effect, and it's one of those experiences, right?
Well,
that was a shock.
Next year we'll talk about maybe doing the industry summit in Paris, so I can get over there and see.
Janyce, it would not be my vote. That was not my favorite place ever.
Yeah. So Janyce, we'll wrap up. I'm sure that if you had to bet right now how much time we'd have spent, it's a lot more than what you think.
Maybe.
I think you may be second place on our show duration.
Oh gosh, is Rich Klein still ahead of me?
Oh yeah, Rich Klein's he's the GOAT. He's the GOAT when it comes to show duration. So Rich has been flexed and covered. Rob Veras started it out. Rich tried to stomp on it, and then I think you've overtaken Rob. So we'll make sure Rob knows that at every drop of the hat.
Don't tell Rob. Rob's my karaoke buddy.
I'm not surprised at all that Rob's a karaoke guy, given his band.
Oh yeah, his
affectations,
signature song used to be "Mac the Knife."
I did not know that.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
My
He always
signature is
used to
Love
say
Shack.
"Mac the
I've
Knife."
won multiple karaoke contests at bars with Love Shack. So I have to have a good female accomplice. So, you know, there's that.
I was listening to Love Shack today. Actually. Looking
That has
at
some
the
good
video.
B-52s. Yeah. Well, so
Yeah.
Janyce, thank you. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I was just gonna say thank you so much. Not just thanks for tonight. Thanks for always being so positive in this industry.
Yeah.
For keeping me in check also, which not a lot of people can do. But seriously, it being around you is like one of my favorite things to do. I look for it, and obviously we missed so many opportunities between National and Summit last year. Thanks for always being so positive. Thanks for always being such a great force in this industry for growth and just, you know, I look at the people who put us where we are right now, and thanks for being one of those people who have, you know,
Amen.
directly, literally have their footprint, their handprint on the success of this industry and the growth of this industry. So just massive thank yous.
Well, thank you very much, Mike. So, you know, I appreciate everybody in the industry because you guys are on the front line. You're facing the bullets a lot more than I am. And now that this reminded me of, you asked about a charity. I believe there was Mike raised money for his mother's charity by shaving his beard.
Yes.
I definitely would like to sponsor that charity again.
Was that at National 2 years ago, Mike?
That was an Upper Deck event, I think.
Yeah, yes, it was the Upper Deck event a little bit over a year ago. That was actually the last time I shaved.
Okay.
Yes, Clayton donated $500. We got over $1,000. It was for Food Bank of the Rockies.
Yeah, it was a food bank type of thing. I couldn't remember the exact name.
Yeah.
But
So after you give to St. Jude, if you watch this, please consider also donating if you care to the Food Bank of the Rockies.
Or your local food bank, wherever you may be that's listening. You know, it's a big deal, and food insecurity is a big deal in the country. So if you can help, please help.
Yeah. I appreciate you guys working around my schedule
of course,
to do this. We have our two youngest grandchildren do sports every weekend, and for some reason there's always seems to be a 10 o'clock game on Sunday.
Yeah, having someone who played in it, and then having nieces and nephews. When they're in the sports, it's a 24/7 venture on the weekend. So
yes, it is.
You just write them off and not worry about them.
We love every minute of it.
Yeah. Well, Janyce, thank you very much for joining us. You did not disappoint, and I appreciate the time. As Mike was so good to thank you. The stories that I heard from people preceding meeting you were all validated when I did meet you, and I'm glad we were able to have you on the show. So thank you very much for joining us.
I appreciate it very much, and you know, I'm glad that Nate had you come over and break the
vault
signature series in there, and Little Sage. That was fun. Yeah.
So I appreciate you joining us, and thanks for everybody who listened. Thanks for listening to us here on the Card Shop.